Hello, my name is Christina Harding. Welcome to my graduate research project for compensation and benefits management at Amberton University with Dr. Diane Sanchez. My presentation will be discussing and analyzing a retail incentive program for JCPenney. I will be developing and designing an effective retail incentive program for a financially troubled company, JCPenney. First, we'll take a look at JCPenney's long history in America. Next, I'll define incentive programs and outline the types of programs as well as the advantages and disadvantages of each. Next, we'll look at the terms for the incentive programs as well as what makes some incentive programs effective and ineffective. Finally, I'll outline what I believe through my research will be an incentive program for JCPenney that will help their organization re-engage and motivate their team. Then I'll go through limitations, methodology, recommendations, and my conclusion. I'll be answering the question, if JCPenney had a clearly defined incentive program and their teams were properly informed and motivated to perform, would the company still be struggling to achieve sales? JCPenney has had a long, prosperous history in America. Founded in 1902 by James Cash Penney in Wyoming, he originally called his stores the Golden Rule because he believed in treating others the way we'd like to be treated. At the time, the Golden Rule store was just a dry goods store. Penney bought out his partners after their third store opened in 1907. JCPenney was a booming mid-price retailer for well over a century. Let's go over some of their most notable moments. In its first year, their stores saw sales of $2,800, and just 10 years later, with 34 stores, sales reached $2 million. By 1927, for JCPenney's 25th anniversary, annual sales reached $115 million and 773 stores were operating. In 1952, annual sales surpassed $1 billion. In 1961, they opened their first full-line department store. In 1962, JCPenney finally abandons their cash-only philosophy and starts to accept credit. And in 1963, JCPenney launched their first catalog, a momentous moment for sure. Who doesn't remember the 1,000-page JCPenney Big Book catalog? In 1973, before the recession the following year, JCPenney was at its maximum number of stores with 2,053 stores. The next couple years were trying for the company, first with the recession, and then inflation, and high interest rates negatively impacted the company and earnings. The 90s were a bit better for JCPenney. In 1993, JCPenney was the largest catalog retailer after Sears closed its catalog business. And in 1994, JCPenney was named the #1 best store for women's apparel in the country. Just 1 year after I started working at JCPenney in 1998, they launched their internet store. Yes, I worked at JCPenney twice. First, from 1997 to 2000 as an associate and then promoted to a supervisor, and then again in 2007 through 2010 as a sales manager. I believe my personal experience helps me bring a unique angle to my research, and we'll talk about that more later on in the presentation. I vividly remember how JCPenney.com impacted the company. Suddenly, customers could order at home and pick up at the store in the catalog department. Associates were also able to go to JCPenney.com at their registers and locate items for customers that were not in stock at the store. It really was quite revolutionary for the late 90s. In 2002, JCPenney celebrated their 100-year anniversary with 1,075 stores and annual sales of $14.8 billion. JCPenney was also the largest apparel and home furnishings online retailer at the time. In 2006, JCPenney partnered with Sephora, a huge milestone for the organization. They launched stores within a store at many JCPenney locations. During 2009, in my second tour at JCPenney, they discontinued their catalog, another significant moment in history when we often thought, how can JCPenney survive without the catalog? For the next couple years, they were rather tricky for JCPenney. They launched many new brands, most private label and with big name designers like Ralph Lauren, Martha Stewart, and Kimora Lee Simmons. They brought in a new CEO, Apple's Ron Johnson, who made drastic changes to their pricing method, merchandising standards, and store layout. These tactics didn't work well for the organization, and they struggled to find their niche, as customers weren't responding to the pricing and marketing plans. Employees were laid off, and underperforming stores were closed. Ron Johnson was fired, and the previous CEO, Mike Allman, was brought back in. He quickly made changes to the pricing and promotional strategies, as the previous changes were still not resonating with shoppers. Still, JCPenney struggled to acquire their previous level of market share. Sales continued to fall, additional stores were closed, and employees were laid off. Allman was unable to rectify this bleak situation. So another CEO was brought in, Jill Soltau. She brought in new talent and worked to clean out old inventory. Throughout 2018 and 2019, additional stores were closed. And in May of 2020, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, JCPenney filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy with only 840 stores remaining. For the first time in its 110-year history, JCPenney's stock prices dropped under $1 a share and are now at risk of being delisted on the New York Stock Exchange. Through the bankruptcy proceedings, JCPenney will continue to close additional stores to reduce their overall debt. Currently, 2 groups have agreed to purchase the company and assume the debt. It will be interesting to see what these groups and Soltau can accomplish in the next couple years. Next, let's take a look at what makes up an incentive program. Incentive programs are a part of the pay-for-performance aspect of compensation management. Incentives are base pay plus a variable pay. Incentive programs are a formal program used to stimulate employees and reward them for their performance. The specified rewards for each position must appeal to the workers, otherwise they will not work to achieve them. Incentives are also planned activities that motivate people to achieve the organizational objectives. Incentives must be tied to engagement and business results. They can be monetary or non-monetary. However, studies have shown that non-monetary rewards are better for long-term change as they capture more of a social and emotional value with the employee. Incentives contribute positively to retention and work to boost morale. Additionally, a great incentive program can help to increase loyalty among staff. There are 2 types of incentive programs. First, individual incentives. Individual incentive programs promise pay to the employee for some objective. A standard of performance is established, then all of the workers in the department, group, or company are compared against one another. Often with individual programs, their wages are tied to their output, and many companies will pay higher wages for output that is above the standard. These programs work best for commissioned sales positions and factory workers, as their jobs are based on how much they sell and how much they produce individually. Another example of an individual incentive program is health incentives. Many companies offer monetary deposits in employee accounts for participating in healthy or health-related activities or events, such as a Know Your Numbers event for employee biometric screenings, or participating in a yearly physical. Some organizations even offer monetary rewards for being a non-smoker or having low blood pressure or blood sugar. Again, with these types of programs, your individual participation is required to achieve the incentive. There are advantages and disadvantages to individual incentive programs. This type of program works well for units of production during a specific time period and is often used for straight piecework production. These programs can have a positive effect on the workers' performance and increase their productivity. They are more productive in their positions, and often organizations will see a decrease in production costs. Additionally, workers will increase their earnings, often making them more content and satisfied at work. Now, some disadvantages. Individual incentive plans are not often used because they encourage negative or unethical behavior. In many positions, it's difficult to find good, objective measures to base standards on. These incentive programs do not work for every job, as most workers do not do the same exact work all day, every day, as a means of measurement. Finally, often companies will see standards are lowered so incentive can be paid out, possibly because workers are cutting corners to make the incentive, or supervisors are allowing lower standards just to keep them happy. The other type is a group incentive program. These programs focus on the team working together to achieve a goal. To determine pay, the worker's performance is compared, and the overall group's performance is compared against the standard, level, or manager's expectations. Group incentives also help to increase productivity amongst the group. Companies may use customer satisfaction or sales and financial performance as a means of measurement. Additionally, they can look at the quality of goods produced or the services offered to determine the group's performance. Next, we have some advantages and disadvantages of group incentive programs. First, group productivity is increased as well as group morale, and often standards of performance are based on productivity improvement. However, there are some disadvantages. First, research has shown that many companies are not satisfied with how team compensation plans work, and as teams come in many sizes and varieties, and there's many variables that come into play. There can be full-time or part-time workers, or even temporary staff, making it difficult to determine contributions and compensation. Often group plans are too broad and they can be difficult to explain, difficult to understand, and too complex, leading to a decrease in motivation. Additionally, uncontrollable elements are often not factored in and the plans are not communicated properly to the team. So, which is better? Individual incentive plans yield the greatest increase in productivity, yet group plans encourage team coordination, something many organizations currently need. Individual plans focus on singular accomplishments, whereas group plans focus on the collaborative effort. Individual plans allow the worker to focus on their goals and their specific objectives, as their pay is not dependent on others. And groups can often suffer with free rider problems. A whole group can lose its mojo with one poor contributor. And often when groups fail to work well together, the organization will see an increase in turnover. Next, we'll take a look at short-term and long-term incentive plans. First, short-term incentives are looking at terms of 12 months or less. The vast majority, 99% of companies use these type of plans. In fact, most companies have multiple short-term plans in play at once. And as competition is increasing around the world, companies have to look at additional means of increasing productivity. Some short-term incentive plans are annual bonus, spot awards, profit-sharing plans, gain-sharing plans, retention bonuses, and project bonuses. Long-term incentive plans are looking at a term of over 12 months. Typically, these incentives are paid out every 2 to 5 years and are often based on company stock performance. Additionally, long-term incentives are often most used for executives or higher-level positions. Some examples of long-term incentives are stock grants, stock options, performance share grants, or payouts based on shareholder return. Other plans might include vacation time increases the longer you work for a company, or increases in company contributions to vested 401k plans. So, what makes an effective incentive program? First, specific duties, actions, and results must be determined. Next, the organization must determine the term. Will the incentives be based on short-term or long-term goals? The objectives must be measurable and achievable because there's nothing worse than an unattainable incentive. For the program to be effective and successful, managers must be involved and participating in the program. It's often helpful for results to be tracked and updated with the team consistently, as workers want to know if and when they will achieve the incentives. Additionally, their actions and behaviors must be tied to the results. Managers need their workers to be participating and actively involved in the program. Ineffective incentive programs, on the other hand, will lead to disengaged employees that will not deliver and not positively impact results in the organization. Often employees don't understand the goals of an incentive program nor how they can impact the goals. Additionally, disengaged workers will do the minimum work and yet expect the maximum reward. Incentives can also draw employees to a singular duty, causing them to ignore other portions of their job. Incentive programs can also be ineffective if management fails to provide consistent feedback on the workers' progress toward their goals. Therefore, the workers never know their status toward achieving the incentive. Incentives can be monetary or non-monetary. Monetary incentives can be paid out in monthly, quarterly, or yearly bonuses. They can be in the form of stock options or profit sharing. Additionally, some companies pay out bonuses when a project is complete. For sales positions, workers will receive commissions or spiffs based on their sales performance. Finally, some companies will use additional PTO days as an incentive for performance. Non-monetary incentives come in many creative ways. Some companies subscribe to a point-based reward system where employees can exchange earned points for merchandise. Others will use employee referrals to acquire and retain new staff. Many organizations focus on safety and reward their team for consistently operating safe at the workplace. Other non-monetary rewards are offering mental health days and rewards for participating in health or wellness programs. There's also company swag or merchandise that they can get. Additionally, there are monthly engagement activities and employee recognition, or even lunch with the boss, as well as offering development opportunities, which can be a great incentive for many as it offers growth and shows that the organization cares about their employees' progression. Here is my suggested incentive program for JCPenney. I've set up two programs, one for management and one for associates, because I think it's necessary to differentiate between the two as they are vastly different positions in the organization. When I worked at JCPenney as a manager, I never knew anything about the management bonus structure. No one really did. We knew there was a yearly bonus, yet we never knew the metrics or the standards. We knew it was based off sales and inventory shrinkage numbers, yet it seemed as though those numbers were always awaiting finalization. It was frustrating because it left you confused and always wondering. Then, when the bonus was finally paid out, it wasn't announced or explained, just suddenly deposited. So you never knew if you got the whole bonus or only half of it, and it was always a real huge mystery. And at this point in JCPenney's history and the current financial dilemma that they find themselves in, they can't afford to have managers wondering and confused about the bonus structure, which is why it's so important to clearly define and communicate the programs. The Management Incentive Program will be short-term and a group program, as it is essential for this team to work together to achieve results, and those results must be frequently monitored by the team. I believe looking at the whole store performance is far more important than just looking at the individual departments, as the store must succeed in sales and profit margin to be successful. One department winning is not enough to sustain a whole store. They will have a monthly bonus based on sales and margin performance because this team needs consistent reinforcement of goals and objectives. Relying on just a yearly bonus to motivate and boost morale will not be enough. Especially during these trying times for the organization, the team may be worried for their jobs and concerned for their future. Every win needs to be celebrated, and that means every month. The monthly bonus will be tiered. Just for making sales or margin, they will receive a monetary bonus. Then, the bonus will increase as the store's sales increase over budget. A higher amount for the increase of 1 to 3%, and then 3 to 5%, and so on. I believe starting with lower percentage increases will have a greater impact on the team. Jumping straight to a 10 or 20% increase will be virtually unattainable for this company to achieve. Additionally, because morale is low, we'll recognize managers with a non-monetary reward for their attendance every quarter. I've decided on every quarter because as key carrying members of the management team, they need to have a greater buy-in than the associates, and we really need them present for every scheduled shift. Next, because JCPenney is suffering with its image, we want managers to portray a more positive, community-oriented image to our shoppers. So we will offer incentives for community and volunteer program participation. Finally, there will be an annual monetary bonus based on year-end sales, margin, and inventory shrinkage results. Now for associates, we'll continue to promote the JCPenney credit card as it is very profitable for JCPenney to do so. And we will pay associates for every application that is submitted. Each quarter that the team has no lost time incidents, a luncheon will be served in the break room to help promote a safe workplace. Each month, as the management team will recognize associates with perfect attendance, as tardiness and absences will negatively impact the team. We will also offer PTO days as rewards for excellent performance or for any other metric. Additionally, offering employee referrals will be essential for this team, as retaining staff will be very important as JCPenney goes through the bankruptcy process. We'll reward employees when the referral completes at least 6 months of employment. There will be health and wellness rewards for the team too, to boost morale and engagement and to show that JCPenney cares. JCPenney will also subscribe to a point-based reward system. These points can be administered by management for a variety of successes, for attendance or customer service responses on the survey, or even an awesome job performance. The employees can then turn those points in for merchandise offered through that program. Next, each month, an associate will be nominated for an Associate of the Month, and they will have a specially designated parking spot. Finally, for the commission sales associates, will increase their commission percentage as their sales increase through the tiers each month. For instance, in the furniture or window coverings department, if the associate's goal is $10,000, they'll be paid out 2% commission. If they exceed $15,000, then the commission will increase to 3% and so on. Next, limitation of studies. I found some limitations here because of JCPenney's current financial constraints. Being in the middle of a bankruptcy makes it difficult to come up with inexpensive yet engaging programs. Also, some of my research had too broad of suggestions that I had to whittle down into something useful for a retail store. Additionally, some programs found in my research were too high level for retail teams, because we must keep in mind we have to have incentives that fit the team, because they won't work diligently for incentives that don't appeal to them. Plus, we're trying to entice minimum wage, or just above it, workers here, not high-level executives. My methodology was researching scholarly articles and utilizing my experience not only as a retail manager, but also a previous associate, supervisor, and manager at JCPenney. Although it was many years ago, I do recall many experiences there quite vividly. Additionally, I reviewed many articles about JCPenney and its current standings to help me better understand the current status of the organization. I also shopped at 2 JCPenney stores nearby, and that also helped me to get a current feel for the stores and the environment. My recommendations for this financially troubled retailer is to first focus on the basics, which is employee motivation, organizational culture, customer experience, and store environment. Because JCPenney is struggling so much and in so many areas, they need to attain a clearer focus. The company won't find success without motivated employees. The culture of the organization is suffering with so many layoffs and legal issues. Customers just aren't shopping their stores, and the environment is not drawing shoppers in. JCPenney must also actively manage the incentive program. The criteria must be defined, it must be communicated to the team, and it must be consistently promoted. Often, when new programs roll out, it's talked about for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, then it drops off because the excitement has worn off. I've seen it happen many, many times in my retail career. For this program to be successful, management must have full participation. Additionally, they need to have a compensation management platform to accurately and continuously track incentive performance. With an organization this large, this is not something that can be tracked in a binder or on a spreadsheet. JCPenney also needs to train and develop their team. I'm sure the organization will have additional changes and new developments coming their way within the next couple months through the bankruptcy proceedings, and having an informed and knowledgeable team will be critical to their future success. Next, my conclusions and implications for the 21st century workforce. First and foremost, JCPenney must make changes and be open to new approaches because they need to save 80,000 workers that are still employed. They need to make some drastic changes to their culture and store environment because they must reacquire that lost market. They need to focus on where they have always found success, and that's in Middle America. They need to re-engage with customers that they've lost, attain new customers, and appeal to other shoppers, such as younger generations or multicultural shoppers. They must ensure their loyalty program entices shoppers to return to their stores. JCPenney has struggled with customer engagement as their Better Business Bureau is a 1.8 out of 5 stars, mainly due to customer service complaints and issues. Additionally, JCPenney needs to hire forward-thinking managers. JCPenney is well known for having a seasoned management team. Many meetings I attended as a manager were amongst managers that have been there 20 to 30 years. And because they've been employed so long, they might have a difficult time adjusting to new ideas. It's hard to get past the way we've always done it type mentalities. They also need to hire adaptable associates, as longevity with this team is quite common at JCPenney too. For instance, when shopping recently at a store I worked at in 1987, there were still employees working there that I worked with back then. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, as their endurance shows hope. However, they must ensure this team can adjust with the times and move forward with the upcoming changes. Finally, I believe that if JCPenney utilizes an appropriate incentive program for their team, they will motivate them to succeed. They will see a great increase in morale and greater sales than in previous years, because their shoppers will feel the change in the store and in the team. Thank you so much for taking the time to view my presentation. Here are my references. Thank you again, and stay safe.